Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to show off a completely new build for Demon Hunter with the newest changes with the ancient ethereal weapons, specifically the Barizza. This is going to be a new frozen Demon Hunter that will have 100% crit chance against frozen enemies, and we're going to have a huge chance to freeze. Just wait until you see, guys, the gameplay against the Rift Guardian, how powerful this is. And keep in mind my gems right now, this is all PTR. They're not even super high level. We have 0 augments. We've got a 45, we've got a 36, and a 45. Now, normally in Diablo 3, you want to max out as much crit hit chance and crit hit damage as possible for almost every single build. However, we only have 10% crit chance, and that is due to the Paragon tree. It's still okay to get crit hit chance, but what we're going to rely on for our crit hits is actually going to be by freezing our enemies. So we actually got two different things here that are going to add a lot more freeze chance. So with Barizza, we already have a 35% chance to freeze on hit. This is the new thing in Season 24, the ethereal weapons. Now, we have a 35% chance to freeze with Barizza, but in addition with that, the final blue text is hits against frozen enemies are always critical hits, so we don't even need to get critical hit chance. Now, I'm also going to be buffing it up with Frostburn, which are these legendary gauntlets. I have them right now inside of the Knight's Cube, but they're also things that you can equip. Well, cold skills will deal more damage and have a 50% chance to freeze enemies. I'm not sure if this is going to be additive or multiplicative, so we have an additional 50% on top of 35. And on top of that, we also are changing up our vengeance to be running from the shadows, which can actually freeze enemies as well. And because this Frostburn procs off of any of the cold skills, we're going to actually run Strafe Icy Trail. So not only is it going to be doing cold damage, but we're also leaving an Icy Trail that can proc that extra chance to freeze, I believe. I'm not sure, again, if this is going to be multiplicative or additive on like how it works with Barizza, but we're here to test it out. So now that we have a brief explanation of it, I'll go more into the other things and more finite details after I give you guys the gameplay, but I wanted to briefly explain kind of how this build works because it is going to be a little bit more different than a conventional Diablo 3 build. So let's go and hop in. We'll do a GR 100 just for like kind of reference. Again, my gems and stuff aren't super high level. We got no augments, but let's go rolling and let's kind of see how it performs. So just like any of the other GOD builds, we got to build up our stacks and then we're just going to start zooming. And the first hit that you'll see on the enemies, most of the time they're all going to be white. However, that is because they have to get hit and have a chance to be frozen before they actually become frozen, if that makes any sense. So we will see that in a moment here where, unfortunately, that enemy had shielding, so he's going to take a second for us to pop, but we can just go right through him. And you can see the build is doing what I would consider very good for a build that has basically no crit. I mean, you might as well get it from the Paragon tree because it gives it to you for free anyways, but let's switch to the next area and just start melting content. And I would say this is really good. Again, this is relatively low in terms of the gem levels because that's a huge thing in Diablo. But wait until you guys see the Rift Guardian. You'll definitely notice a huge difference in not only the survivability, but in addition with that, you also have about double crit. Because on average, you get about 50 to 60% crit in most builds in Diablo. And then on top of that, when you're able to have 100% crit, technically your first hit isn't a crit, but then after that, it's almost always going to be a crit, as you guys are seeing from the gameplay. Like, you'll see one white number, then the rest are pretty much yellow, which would signify the, like, you know, big DPS. And I'll also go over some of the skills. Usually I would include, like, the D3 planner and, you know, make it a complete build guide. However, I feel like we might have some room for iterations of modifying this build, like different variants. It would definitely be a good like build in the very beginning if you don't want to roll like crit on every single piece of one of your gears, because sometimes, you know, it just takes time to get those perfect rolls. So it could be a really good thing to have if you happen to get Barizza early on and you just want to get the fast speeds done. But Bolas can also be really good for that as well. But it's pretty much just to show you guys that, like, you can have no crit and just rely on Barizza's ability. But okay, watch this. This is what I consider the most important part of the video here. See how the enemy isn't even moving? He's just permanently frozen. So this could be really good just in case if you're against Arok, Rakanoth, any of the The specific Rift Guardians that can just do massive amount of damage to you instantly, it's great for survivability as well. But let's go ahead and just finish upgrading some of the gems here. Now that we've completed the gameplay, I'll go over the more finite details of this build and my skill choices, but feel free to let me know if there's anything to improve upon this build, as we're in the earlier stages of like my creativity in this build because it's completely new. So there might be room for optimization. If there is, definitely let me know in the comments. So first off, in terms of what I'm running inside of the cube, I could probably drop the Obsidian the Ring of the Zodiac. You can technically run Convention of Elements, but I didn't want that to be kind of like the highlight of the huge amount of like bonus damage that we were getting. So I threw this in here just so I can speed around a little bit faster with Smokescreen, because you do lose out on a little bit of movement speed with running Strafe, Icy Trail. Normally you'd be running the Lightning Rune so you don't move at a slower speed, but I decided to run Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Not because I want to keep up Vengeance, because I have Dawn already inside of the cube, but just so I can pop the preparation over and over again. Normally people would run the one where it gives you that over a short duration. It gives you more discipline, but instead I decided to run this one just because I'm able to pop it a lot more often, because it'll go off of cooldown because of Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, and that also lets me pop Smokescreen more often, as well as it's just going to be a little bit faster. I'm also running Shadow Power Gloom. This could be dropped. I was thinking because we're going to actually take a lot more damage, I wanted some extra damage reduction. And the reason why we're going to be taking more damage is normally with Vengeance, people generally will either run Seath or Darkheart. Darkheart is the damage reduction one, which most people will be running. So since I lost out on 50% damage reduction there, I decided to go ahead and give it to myself in another location. So that's why we have Shadow Power with Gloom, but I think this could be something that could be swapped. But definitely you'd want Vengeance from the Shadows, the Cold Rune, just because the Shadow allies will be freezing the enemies. And again, if they're frozen, that's going to give you 100% crit chance. And then we have Hungering Arrow, Devouring Arrow. This is something that's on every single one of the GOD builds. And then with Strafe, it's just because it's a cold, and it does leave an Icy Trail. Let me show you guys this because it's kind of faster in the gameplay. But behind us, there is an Icy Trail. Now, remember, Strafe does not actually deal our damage. It's just to be there so it perhaps can proc. I'm not even sure if the Strafe, like Icy Trail, can even proc that extra chance to freeze on hit. But nonetheless, I'm just running I'm going to run the Cold Rune, because what this allows me to do is Strafe can hit the enemy, and then what happens is the Hungering Arrow that actually deals the damage, it will already apply Frozen to the enemy, so then our Hungering Arrow will then crit, because this is what deals our damage anyways. So the big changes with this, I've kind of highlighted down over here what we've changed. So you don't need to run crit hit chance on any one of your pieces of gear. Again, this is where the build gets a little bit different. So on our rings, we don't have any crit over there. We can roll extra damage or attack speed, depending on what build you're playing for breakpoints, but for the most part, since it's going to be cold, I'm pretty sure GOD is still going to be the dominant build, so it's probably going to be Hungering Arrow, but perhaps there could be other room for other ways for you to rule certain things, because attack speed can be important on certain builds for breakpoints. Same thing with our Amulet. Again, we have no crit hit chance. We still want crit hit damage, but yeah, we don't need it on our Amulet, as well as the offhand. Even though it says we're getting a massive increase in damage, you can't always look at that, because that's going to factor in that critical hit chance, and we don't care about critical hit chance at all. We just want crit damage because we'll have 100%. Another area would be the Helm, the gloves, as well as the bracer. So we can basically get extra survivability in other departments. Like normally with the gloves, you want crit hit chance, your main stat, and then vitality, and then you can get all resist as well, or vitality. It's just something, you know, in the defensive category, but usually it's crit chance, main stat, and then something else. And then you want of course, your elemental damage. But with this build, we don't need it, because we will have the crit hit chance being at 100%. If anyone knows how to actually calculate this, because I'm actually not sure how this would calculate, because this, it says they will freeze the enemies, but I want as high chance to freeze the enemies as these come out, and kind of how they work. They still gotta like come out. So let me show you guys kind of what it looks like. We pop it over here. So I will have to attack, but you'll see they have to actually do something. Like, it's not like they instantly freeze the enemy, but I think we're just doing too much damage, so it's going to melt anyway. This is only T16. We'd have to scale it up higher. But basically, they don't interact immediately, as it does not just freeze off of just this. However, you will still be technically hitting enemies, so you would be proccing Bariza. But it just gives you that additional chance. Now, is this going to be the best or most meta build to play? I have no idea. This is, again, in my earlier testings, and I wanted to kind of share it with you guys and get your guys' feedback. What else could we do for this? Because I was looking up over on the wiki for other things that freeze. There's also technically Reinhardt, but the 10,000% bonus weapon damage with Reinhardt, which is the sword. I don't even know if I have it in the cube here, but it is another thing that I did consider, but it's probably not going to be something that we can utilize. But it does give us a 20% chance on hit to deal 10,000% weapon damage. But because of the way that this game scales, you need lots of different multipliers. With our GOD 6-piece, we already have 15,000% increased damage. And I'm not even running the depth diggers. The pants will also give you a huge bonus damage. And then on top of that, with Reinhardt, you're also losing out on like the Hunter's Wrath, like the bonus. Like the number of 15,000 also being multiplied by the 2-piece set, and you got the multiplier here and the other Hunger Out. This won't simply do enough damage, but it was something that I did honestly consider trying to mess around. But this also technically has a chance to do a freeze. So I was thinking about this as well. And if I just had the Dawn ability, that could be another way to even go further. But I honestly feel like you probably don't even need Frostburn or these other ways to freeze the enemies. I think even at 35% chance, when I was testing this, like even before I had the frozen, it's quite fast because you're hitting them again with your devouring arrow, and on top of that your strafe against the Rift Guardian. But against some of the smaller things, yeah, you're gonna have a higher chance to freeze just a lot of different things, and with 100% crit, it can be kind of nice. But anyways, guys, let me know what you thought of the build, and if there's any ways to improve the build, definitely let me know in the comment section below, and I will be making an updated guide on this. And I just thought it was kind of something fun and interesting to not actually roll crit damage in Diablo 3 with the 10% just coming from our Paragon tree and none of it from our gear. But anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here and do want to see an updated build guide for this, if it's actually going to be viable, as I want to wait and before I start trying to like augment everything and push with it, I want the thing to actually like be finalized, like we get the actual data for Season 24, and I will be doing some more guides for Season 24. So if this is your first time here and do want to see more stuff with Diablo 3's other gaming content, hit subscribe, turn the bell, and you'll definitely see more. And I'll update you guys later down the line with the final patch notes for Season 24, because we're just on the PTR, as well as a build guide for this, because I think it's just interesting. Anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next video, and I'm signing out. Peace.